So 3 months ago, I built my first gaming PC out of a PC that was about half as old as the sun, which is kind of fitting because I ended up naming it the Pulsar, which is literally just a dead star. I built this beast at around 5,000 subscribers, 4,900 subscribers, something like that, and sadly within the next 2 weeks, it'll be replaced by what will be called the Kilonova, and I'll put a picture of the case on screen. You guys only get the case. I had to use my power supply from this rig to power that, by the way. It was not... Actually, it was easy. But since this is one of the most important pieces of technology in the entirety of my channel, and will be for the foreseeable future, I thought it'd be nice to revisit it, benchmark it, test it out, see how it actually performs, because in my video on this PC, I didn't do too much of that. So what exactly is the Pulsar Packin'? Not a lot, but at the same time, for the amount of money I put into it, way more than you could expect. We have 4 cores and 8 threads with the good old I7-3770 from Intel. Legends. I have this thing clocked at 3.6 gigahertz, which is 200 megahertz higher than the base clock, but the issue with it, it's still 4 cores, and I do way too much with it. High-end games, video editing, streaming. Oh yeah, not only 1080p editing too, 4K editing. For a 2012 CPU, it definitely keeps up. And the GPU pairing with it is absolutely perfect with the RX 580 8GB. 8GB of GDDR5 VRAM on the Polaris 20 graphics processor, which AMD's never used before. I don't know what people are talking about. Never once used it, ever. The RX 580 is definitely the defining factor in what makes this a gaming PC, because everything else in this PC runs slow as balls, and yes, I'm talking about the RAM. 12 gigabytes of 1333 megahertz RAM. My name is vCuda's PC. Hi, I'm the Pulsar. What? What are SSDs? I've never heard of an SSD. No, I'm gonna fucking use one of these cool ass SSDs that you guys keep talking about, but I'm still gonna load shit like I'm on a fucking hard drive. The last few components I ended up putting in here, including the hard drive. We got the EVGA 500B, which is a 500 watt bronze power supply. I also have a 4TB HDD. It's a Seagate Barracuda running at like 7200 meg. It doesn't fucking matter, it's a hard drive. And I also have a 500GB Crucial SSD. Now I have so much space because content creator, gamer, we're not the same. I need all the space and the RAM, and unfortunately, I don't have the latter. At the end of the day, here are all my expenses, and in total, I only ended up putting about $220 into this system, which is nothing. In fact, the RX 580 makes up well over half of that cost. Now, I titled this video $300, not because I'm a piece of shit, but because in reality, if you wanted to do this with a system that you had laying around, let's say you have a 2010 PC, 2011, 2012 PC laying around, that you can get proprietary adapters for, so you can work around the proprietary parts, and you can get a bigger power supply. Realistically, you'd probably end up spending around $300 on a system like this, because I didn't have to pay for hard drives. I didn't have to pay for an SSD, and realistically, you probably will have to pay for an SSD or extra space via a hard drive. This shit really isn't hard. You just need to find yourself the right desktop with the right proprietary components. But I suppose that leaves one last question about the Pulsar, and that's how does it actually perform? Well, I tested it in a few different applications. We got 2 games, my editing software, what I use to edit my videos, and then we have UserBenchmark, which is a benchmarking software. In these benchmarks, I'll be including frame rate performance, all my in-game settings, and the performance of the card, including temperatures and usage and shit like that. So the 2 games we're going to be using are Fortnite and Warzone. My editing software, the stuff I use to edit my videos, is Adobe Premiere Pro 2020, and our benchmarking software in UserBenchmark, just a fucking benchmarking software. I don't know what you want me to say. Sticking with tradition, we are going to start off with our first game in Fortnite. I'm so sorry I made this a tradition. That is my bad. So my PC parts remain relatively cool during playing this game, with my GPU having an average temperature of 64 degrees Celsius and my CPU having an average temperature of 54 degrees Celsius. Also, just like I said earlier in other videos, earlier last month, I've been saying this for a while, you do not need 8GB cards for games like this, because if you look over at my memory usage, you'll see I'm using about 2GB of VRAM the entire time. However, it does use a lot of system memory. On average, it was using about 7GB of my system's 12, which is not ideal, and on Warzone it used even more. So if you're an 8GB boy, time to upgrade. That might just be me though. I don't think it is though. I think that game just fucking blows with optimization. Altogether, I had an average FPS of about 130, and Fortnite's extremely inconsistent. When you're indoors, my FPS will range from about 160 to about 200 frames per second. Outdoors, it's a bit lower, ranging from about 120 to 180, and even dipping down to like 100 and sometimes even 90 at some points. The game's inconsistent as hell. Ever since they changed the game's engine, like the physics engine that it runs on, it's been dog shit. So I can't really rely on that for performance too much nowadays, but Fortnite's still an okay benchmark, and a lot of people still play it, especially my audience. This system runs extremely well with Fortnite, and if you were thinking about doing something like this for competitive games like Fort, go ahead. No one cares. That game sucks. Next up, campers with Warzone. Now, what's weird is that Warzone is a much more intense game than Fortnite is, but in some categories, it used a lot less. Weirdly. For instance, my GPU didn't get as hot in Warzone with an average temperature of 56 degrees, a full 8 degrees Celsius less than Fortnite. Warzone got the exact same temperature with my CPU, 54 degrees Celsius. Now, yes, I do keep my side panel open. I don't want my side panel on. It just looks better. It looks way better with the side panel off. So Warzone is one of those games you will need an 8 gigabyte card for, but no shit, it's way harder to run than Fortnite. At least it should be. That could be evidenced by my RAM usage though, because I was using about 10 gigabytes of RAM during the recording, and yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of RAM. That's all my RAM. So when it comes to like streaming on a rig like this, no. Unfortunately, no. But if you're me, maybe. If the universe wants you to. The only way you could stream on something like this is if the universe wanted you to. Finally, Warzone had an average FPS of 70.7. Warzone's really consistent with the frame rates. It was ranging anywhere between, on the very low end, 62, 63 FPS, and then on the higher end, it'd go past 80, 85, but it's really staying within that range. When you go indoors, it's really the same thing. Outdoors, in fights, it's not all that different. Warzone's actually pretty consistent, and I appreciate it for it, but I fucking hate that game. Which is why we're going to be moving on to my editing software. Now again, like I said, I use Adobe Premiere Pro CC 2020. I took 10 minutes of footage, which was it was a video that I had already done way in the past. You guys can go check it out or something. I don't even remember what video I used to render. So what I did was I rendered 10 minutes of 1080p 60 FPS footage. The exact same footage you're seeing now. 1080p, 60 FPS, and before I rendered it, I made sure it was in H.264, which is the exact same format you're watching this video on. The video came out to be 775 megabytes, and it took a total of 14 minutes and 25 seconds to render. Not great, to be honest with you. My laptop could do it much faster, but my laptop fucking sucks, so yeah. Lastly, we have UserBenchmark, which is a benchmarking software that I'm still not 110% sure how to use. Don't get mad at me. It just says 38% gaming, 75% desktop, 32% workstation, which I don't agree with that last one. I think it could do much better than 32%. So as a gaming or video editing rig for someone who's just started out, I could totally recommend this type of setup. Proprietary system with 4 cores and a decent amount of RAM, and you could throw a new power supply in there if you're willing to get your hands dirty a little bit. You get horsepower that's decently reliable, and I say decently because I've had a lot of fucking issues with this thing. You get 1080p performance across the board, gaming, editing, even streaming if you're really lucky with how your hardware acts, then you can stream. My hardware allows me to stream, and I don't know how, because I game and stream at the exact same time on 4 cores. I'll leave all the parts, and I'll even leave a link to this desktop down below if you guys wanted to do this exact project yourself, which I don't really recommend doing unless you already have some type of system like this at home. Proprietary systems are amazing. I actually do really enjoy working with these things. They're a lot of fun, you know, to try to work around all the little issues that they have that are bullshit. I find them a lot of fun, and in my opinion, this is the best way to start out as a PC gamer, because not only does it teach you about these things and how they work, but it forces you to be a little bit innovative. You can't just throw a bunch of parts you got from PC Part Picker into some shitty case you got and have it work. No, you gotta get adapters, and you gotta take the side panel off, and you gotta do all this other little shit, and you gotta glue some things back together, and you gotta... I hope you guys enjoyed. If I start talking about all the shit that I've done with this rig, I could be here all day. I really enjoyed making this video. I really hope I could have helped some of you guys out, and before we go, I need to help out our fucking members, bro. So we lit. I miss my jacket, dude. Oh my god, I miss my jacket. I'd like to give a huge shout out to our console tier with the Ballin' Boy, JG, Waterless, Heberbrine 3, Tough,
Snowy Ice Cream, God, Exo Casper, and Morheeb Hussein. I'd also like to give another big shout out to our PC Master Race tier with Ra, Noah Jacques, and our newest member, Dabbing Goat. I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I hope you guys enjoyed the Pulsar PC. Everything I've made in the past 3 months has come from this desktop, and everything, actually, even before that, with the Quadro, you guys remember the fucking Quadro, yeah, all that came from this desktop, and it'll be retired very, very soon. Some of the parts will still be used, which is why the Killanova is the name for the next PC, but I hope you guys enjoyed the Pulsar PC, and I hope you guys enjoyed the first saga of PC content on this channel, and I hope you guys will join me in December for my next saga of PC content. So I'll see you, when's this video coming out? I don't really remember. I love you guys. Peace.